LEGO just reminded everyone that they have more control over the LEGO secondary market than any reseller ever will, and honestly, I hope they keep using it. A brand new set is about to flood the market with one of the rarest non-Star Wars minifigure parts ever made, and that means a certain Pirates of the Caribbean and Hobbit minifigure are about to lose a huge chunk of their value. More importantly though, I think this tells us a lot about the future of rare LEGO parts. The part I'm talking about is the dark tan plume. It only appeared twice, once with Angelica from Pirates of the Caribbean in 2011, and once with Radagast from The Hobbit in 2013. Since both figures came in fairly expensive sets, and because these tiny plumes are incredibly easy to lose, they've become ridiculously scarce. Angelica now sells for around $80, Radagast is closer to $110, and the feather alone has been selling on average for $70. In other words, most of the value of both figures comes just from this tiny accessory. Well, LEGO just changed everything. The newly revealed Jaguar E-Type includes 12 dark tan plumes hidden in the engine detailing. 12. Now obviously not everyone is going to buy this set just for the feathers, but it's still going to massively increase the supply of a part that's been incredibly scarce for over a decade. And if these eventually make it to Pick-a-Brick, which I think is really likely, I wouldn't be surprised to see them selling for 10 cents instead of $70. So why would LEGO do this? Well, ever since LEGO acquired Bricklink, they've had a lot of insight into which sets and individual parts collectors are paying huge premiums for. Whether that's the main reason this feather returned or not, it's hard to imagine LEGO wasn't aware of just how valuable this piece had become. And honestly, I think that's a good thing. Yes, this hurts people who specifically invested in these feathers or bought these figures hoping they continue to rise in value, and it also stings a bit for collectors who paid full price only to watch the value drop. But for everyone else, this is fantastic. It makes a rare part accessible again, gives builders another useful part for minifigures and mocks, and if these feathers do end up on Pick-a-Brick, LEGO will probably sell an absolute ton of them because this color is incredibly versatile. We're already seeing people react. 20 Radagast torsos recently sold on Bricklink, and I'd be willing to bet these were bought by a reseller planning to pair them with these re-released feathers and sell complete figures once the Jaguar releases. That's always going to happen. What this does do though is make speculating on rare LEGO parts a bit riskier. Most rare parts still won't get re-released, but if there's always a chance LEGO decides to produce more, it's harder to justify buying up the available supply and trying to corner the market. I talked about this in my LEGO Ninjago secondary market video, where some sellers were buying out high quantity listings of specific parts, only to relist them for significantly more because they suddenly controlled a large portion of the market. Hopefully, decisions like this make that kind of strategy a little less appealing to people who are just trying to make a quick buck at the expense of actual collectors. Personally, I'd love to see LEGO keep doing this. The black plume still sells for around $40, and I'd love to have some of those for Forestman and Peasant customs. The Bear Knight's mace is around $5, despite being one of LEGO's only proper medieval maces. The reddish brown beard from the King CMF is about $10, even though it's useful for all kinds of minifigures, medieval or not. And pearl dark gray castle helmets are another huge one. Kettle helmets are pushing $5 each, and the grill helmets are almost $7. Army builders would buy those by the hundreds if LEGO put them on Pick-a-Brick for a fraction of that price. LEGO gets to sell thousands of additional parts, builders finally get affordable access to pieces they've wanted for years, and the only people who really lose are the ones treating these accessories like long-term investments. We've already started seeing a similar philosophy with the leaked Series 30 collectible minifigures, because assuming the leaks are accurate, we're getting another Raven Knight. That makes complete sense, because the Series 20 Tournament Knight is the most valuable CMF ever aside from Mr. Gold. Hopefully, that's a sign of things to come. Maybe one day we'll see Rohan soldiers return in a smaller Lord of the Rings set, or LEGO finds other ways to bring back expensive castle and CMF accessories that fans have been asking for. As for me, I actually got pretty lucky. A few months ago, I picked up a Radagast torso for just $16, hoping I'd eventually find an affordable feather. Turns out, my timing couldn't have been much better. Unfortunately, now that this news is out, Radagast torsos are getting bought up pretty quickly as people try to piece together nearly complete figures before the feathers become widely available. So if you've been wanting a Radagast or Angelica, I'd honestly recommend being patient. Either grab a cheaper copy that's missing the feather, or wait a few months and see where prices settle once these new plumes enter the market. At the end of the day, this is only one small LEGO part, but I think it represents something bigger. LEGO has shown they're willing to bring back incredibly expensive elements, and that's a reminder that they, not resellers, ultimately control the supply. If this becomes a trend instead of a one-off, it could completely change how collectors and resellers think about certain rare LEGO parts going forward. Let me know what you think down in the comments and what rare LEGO part you'd most like to see make a comeback. If you want to stay up to date on LEGO Castle and Lord of the Rings news, make sure to subscribe. And as always, thank you for watching.